Good evening. Welcome to the PDR Live. Please like our live stream and subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already. So, this is, I forget what day it is actually. Um, Probably day three of the capture, the apprehension of Luigi Mangione. So the mainstream media at the moment has shifted its narrative from focusing on United Healthcare and its shady business practices. They've shifted their coverage of Brian Thompson's background, his alleged insider trading, the prior authorizations that were rejected by AI technology, and the other practices that United Healthcare used to try to maximize profit at the expense of their customers. So the focus is really shifting away from the plight of what the customers have had to endure in United Healthcare, and the reason why this outpouring of support for Luigi Mangione has occurred is precisely because of that. So the media is really shifting its narrative and focusing on the alleged assassin Luigi Mangione. And we're learning a little bit more about him, not that much. Um, it's the circumstances surrounding his background, what led to him allegedly committing this act, are still a little bit unclear. We don't have clearly a motive yet. There's no clear motive that has been laid out, and probably that will come out at the trial. That if the trial happens, if and when he is extradited to New York. At the moment, he is fighting the extradition in Pennsylvania, in Altoona, Pennsylvania, because he's been charged with five counts. The counts deal with possessing an illegal firearm and possessing a fake ID. And so that's basically the situation there in Pennsylvania. They are fighting the extradition. This extradition might last at least 45 days, that's my understanding. And it could last even months, so he probably won't be extradited until next year. The reason for that is there's going to be a hearing, and the hearing is going to be held on December 23rd, where they're going to take up the issue of the extradition. And the judge might rule maybe on that day. I'm not sure if he is going to, but what will happen if the judge most likely will rule in favor of the extradition, and what will then happen is that Banjone's counsel will then appeal, and that's why it might take months. This might drag on for months because there's going to be this due process that's going to be played out. So at the moment, really, the mainstream media is just focusing on him and the outbursts that he exhibited when he was transferred to the courthouse in Altoona in Pennsylvania, where he yelled at reporters that he yelled at reporters saying basically that this was an insult to the intelligence of the American people. Okay. So here we have an article from the Guardian giving us some information here precisely about the back condition that is being put out there as by the media and members of the public as to a possible motive if he is the one who did the actual shooting. And by the way, he is presumed innocent until proven guilty. It's already been, but it seems like law enforcement is already trying this case in the media because they've already leaked information stating that they have his fingerprints on the scene at the scene of the crime in New York, and they took his fingerprints when they booked him in Pennsylvania, and the law enforcement claims that they match. Also, the bullet casings that were found on the crime scene in Manhattan have been connected to the gun that he was in possession, allegedly was in possession when he was arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So they're litigating this in the media already, which is a little bit unfair for the defense, because the defense at the moment, they can't really fight back because they have claimed that they have not seen the evidence. Uh, they have not been presented with the evidence by the prosecution. So there's not really much that they can argue. But the allegedly, what's going around in the media and in the public is that he had surgery several years ago. And supposedly, he suffered from a condition that and I'm trying to look up the name here, but it's not in this article, but it's a long name, and here it is. So I'm going to try to pronounce this medical term: spondylolisthesis, something like that. Spondylolisthesis. So it's a fracture or weakness in the vertebrae of the spine, and it says here it's sometimes caused by playing certain sports as a child. Now we do know that he apparently played 2 sports when he was in high school. So he wasn't a student athlete at Gilman School. And it goes on here to say which can cause a vertebrae to shift or slip, according to the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. If the slip is classified as high grade, it can cause significant pain and nerve injury, and to need surgery to relieve their symptoms and prevent further deterioration. Surgical treatment can involve spinal treatment and stabilization with rods and screws. And Mangioni's banner image on X included an X-ray image that appears to show rods and screws inserted into the lower spine. Now, I'm pointing this out because, and I think I mentioned this in a previous live stream, really both sides have put out information that's, well, the media and law enforcement has already put out information that's not completely accurate in this case. And from what I'm told, supposedly from law enforcement experts who appear online and who give their input, that's really not that odd. That tends to happen, especially in high-profile cases. So that we were told that this was a veterinary gun that was used in the killing of Brian Thompson. That turned out not to be true. We were also told that by the mayor that they had the person's identity, that they knew the person's identity before he was apprehended, and that they didn't want to reveal that information, not to tip off the suspect. When Mangione was captured, was apprehended, the chief of police in New York admitted to the media, after being asked, that they were unaware of Mangione's identity prior to the arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So we've already had instances of information that's not accurate. Also, the deaths of the grandparents that were mentioned in 2013, 2017 is probably unlikely that it has anything to do with this, because the grandfather apparently was a very respected member of the community and was a very wealthy person. He's actually the one who founded the nursing homes that the media keeps mentioning, and several country clubs. So that does not seem to me that that person would suffer under our healthcare system. It's unlikely that somebody being of that background would suffer from lack of health care. He can afford it, so it doesn't appear that had anything to do with it, but the media mentioned it. The thing about this surgery, the back surgery, is that just like what the article says here, it appears, see that? There's no documented evidence that Luigi Mangione had surgery. From what's been reported in the press, he told people that he had surgery. And he showed that image, so the alleged x ray, to people, two friends. But there's really no independent corroborating evidence to show that he actually had the surgery. Now, it doesn't mean that he didn't have the surgery. All I'm saying is that there is no evidence that's been presented to the public at the moment. And they might present that during the trial. I would think they would probably present that if and when the trial happens in New York after he's extradited. Because that would be an issue, or that could be an issue that might be raised. Now, if they're not going to use that as a defense, then this whole issue of us talking about his back surgery is really a moot point. It becomes irrelevant because he's not going to use that as a defense. So we're wasting our time actually talking about this issue here. But it goes on. And it says in one Reddit post from July 2023, which has been taken down by the way, Mangione complained of pain that had grown more extreme after a surfing accident and a slip, writing, "Yeah, when I went surfing 1.5 years ago, 1.5 years ago, I experienced sciatica for the first time. Basically, extension movement destabilized my spondy. A few weeks later, I slipped on a piece of paper and my right glute locked and a right leg shut down for a week." RJ Martin, a friend and former roommate of Mangione's, told CNN on Monday that soon after Mangione moved to Hawaii, this was after he graduated, by the way, he was in bed for about a week with back pain after a surfing lesson. It was really traumatic and difficult, when you're in your early 20s and you can't, do some basic things. And then he goes on to, the article goes on to say, Mangione, then this is what's interesting here, encouraged other Reddit users to get surgery. So that's the odd thing, that if this is really about it seems that it's unlikely that this has anything to do with his personal healthcare issues, because if it were about a lack of healthcare, then why is he encouraging people to get surgery? That means he got the surgery. See? To be honest, he goes, once the pain becomes low grade, but all the time, it could be time for surgery, he wrote in April this year. I mean, the situation sucks for sure, but the solution isn't to retreat into a bubble. So that's what's really odd about this entire situation, that he's actually encouraging people to get surgery. And this happened a couple of years ago, allegedly. So that's what's really not clear about this whole situation. And it's not really clear whether this is the reason, if he did commit the crime. It's really not clear if this is the actual motive for the crime. So we need just to be aware that we should look at evidence. That's the burden of proof, is that you need to bring evidence in order to prove something. Now, the defense doesn't have to prove anything. It's the prosecution that has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, both in the case in Pennsylvania and when he's extradited in the case of in New York. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed these crimes, that it's alleged that he committed. Okay, so I'm going to take you now to a video giving us a little bit more background information about Mangione. And this is a video really about his family.
Chilling words tonight from what a law enforcement source says were pages of notes in a spiral-bound notebook made by murder suspect Luigi Mangione, who's now awaiting extradition from Pennsylvania in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. In one passage, again, according to our source who was briefed on the matter, Mangione muses about what could be better than to
So that's it. Uh, it's unlikely that the it's highly unlikely that the death of the grandfather would be a reason, and even the grandmother, because they're like scions as a community. So the media did point that out, and so I think that that has nothing to do with this because they had radio stations and country clubs and nursing homes. There's just no reason for them to not be able to afford good quality health care. Uh, and this is where this young man actually came from. So we probably won't know the motive of until the trial, though I have suspicion about what's going on. I do know that a lot of people know online are saying, well, it doesn't make sense. He fled the scene of the crime in New York. Uh, they couldn't track him for 6 days, and then he ends up caught with all this evidence. Okay, so, and I think that a lot of people who are saying these things are just, they're supporting, and I understand they're supporting him because of their hatred for the healthcare industry, and I totally understand the hatred against the healthcare industry. But if we were trying to be objective, it is a possibility that he was trying to flee the country, or his plan was to flee the country, and that's why they found $8,000 in, allegedly they found $8,000 uh, in his possession, $2,000 worth of a foreign currency. That signals to me that he had plans to flee the country, possibly catch a plane ticket, and I'm assuming he probably had euros, but maybe take a flight to Italy. I think that was the plan. It's a possibility that what happened, because this news went viral online, and he noticed people's reaction to what he did, if he actually did what he's accused of doing, that he was being hailed by a hero by some people, that he probably changed his plans and decided, what, probably going to stay here. And it's possible that he starts writing the manifesto because he's probably, and he keeps the murder weapon, he keeps all this evidence because it's likely that he was going to do it again. Okay, and so that's a likely possible scenario, answering to the question as to why was he caught with all of this evidence. It doesn't make sense. Yes, he fled the crime, he fled the scene of the crime, and they had no idea where he was at. And how is it that he ends up getting caught in a McDonald's? So the place where he was caught, by the way, is like a small community. It's like a small town. And actually, I read an article stating that he actually tried to stay in at a motel about a 17-minute drive away from this McDonald's, and apparently no room was ready for him, so that's why they could not take him in. So the fake ID, obviously he was going to use on that occasion, but he wasn't able to use it because they told him, oh, we don't have a room available. So that's why he had the fake ID on him, most likely. So that's the possibility right there. The monopoly money is most likely the accusations of United Healthcare allegedly committing monopoly. So he's sending that message there. So, but again, that's just a possibility because people are saying it doesn't make any sense, So I'm just bringing up that could be a possibility. I'm not saying saying that that's what happened, though I'm suspecting that that's probably what went down as to why he was caught with all the goods. Well, that's it for tonight. Please like the live stream. I want to thank you all for subscribing. We've gone from 260 subscribers to 284 last time I checked. I know it's really the video on the Bashar al-Assad in Syria, given the situation that's happened there in Syria. I know we've spent a lot of time on this subject, but the reason I'm spending a lot of time on it is that it's twofold. It's gone viral, and number two, it deals with healthcare, an issue that our group has really advocated for in the past 8 years, on the ground and online. So we advocated for Medicare for all in the Bernie campaigns of 2016 and 2020, and did very brief canvassing for California nurses on Medicare for all at a campus. So that's the reason that this thing has gone viral, and unfortunately, the mainstream media is just shifting the focus on the alleged assassin when they could be doing that, but they could also be doing background information on the CEO. And notice that they're not doing that. They did do that in the beginning, and there are some articles, but that's not the focus of the narrative right now. They're doing this in-depth background on this guy here, when in fact, yeah, they should be doing that, but they should also be doing an in-depth background focus on Brian Thompson, and they haven't even mentioned that he was charged with he pleaded guilty for driving while intoxicated. So, what other skeletons in the closet could they find about this guy? With the business practices and so on. That's more important than Luigi Mangione, because Brian Thompson had more power over people in this country. Luigi Mangione did not have power over a group of people in this country. The only power he had is that he took the life of a CEO. That's it. And he was probably planning on killing other high-level officials. There's no evidence to suggest that he was interested in killing people, because he allegedly contemplated doing bombing attacks, but then he decided not to do it because he didn't want to kill innocents. Okay, so that just tells me that he's not really interested in going after the low hanging fruit. He's interested in the Big Apple, and probably he's interested in getting more attention, probably. But that's it for tonight. Thank you so much to all our subscribers, and subscribe to PDR and like this